I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing in this.
Why?
Drop the beat now.
Hi there.
Hey,
Hi,
everybody.
everyone.
Hey, everybody. How you all doing today?
Welcome to Marriage Can Heal podcast.
I'm Pedro,
I'm Tara.
and we are your host.
That's right.
This is, are we going to start the new season?
Oh, right. We were. I forgot.
Season 4, episode 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Season 4, episode 1.
Why you writing it down?
Because when I do the editing, don't start with me. When I do the editing,
You can't remember season 4, episode 1?
Like
It's
I said,
so simple.
it doesn't matter. I wrote it down, so when I do the edit,
4 and 1. 4-1, 4-1. Season
matter.
4, 4-1. What's the 4-1-1? All right, then. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have some special guests today. So we normally go in and talk about our day a little bit and things like that, but we want to use as much time as possible to get these folks on.
Yeah.
I found them on Facebook.
Wonderful people.
And wonderful couple.
Yeah.
And really enjoyed listening to them. So we wanted to get them on, and they've been kind enough to join us.
That's right.
So without further ado, we're gonna bring them on, and their name is Oliver and Denise Marcelle. I may be saying their name wrong. I always hate. I'm saying it right. Good.
Yeah, you
cool. So without further ado, Oliver and Denise of Denali Inc. or the Denali LLC.
LLC. Yep.
LLC.
Mhm.
All right. See, I'm getting the hang of it. Yeah. Yes.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen, thank you, man.
What's
It's
up,
a
guys?
privilege.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
Indeed. man.
It's honored that you guys joined us, because as we talked, it's hard to get people sometimes. So I appreciate you taking time out your schedule, because you guys are busy.
Mm-hmm.
We are,
And
but
I
we
thank you.
appreciate it, and we're happy to be
Yeah,
here.
this we love this space. So
Yeah.
there will always be opportunity to
All
have
right,
great
cool.
conversation, collab with folks that are just as passionate as we are about seeing relationships thrive, man. That's
Definitely.
that's always gonna happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Always down for collaboration and conversation.
Yeah. And it's always good, and because you learn.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you do.
Yeah,
You learn, and you get new techniques and because that not your technique is not always. It's not that it's not always right, but it's just good to get somebody else's view.
Yeah.
And try that view sometimes, because marriage is so broad, different. I think Pastor Ray was saying that yesterday.
Different opinions.
Like
from
when people
different
come, he's a pastor, but he said sometimes he just says, you know what, I'm not maybe you need to get a counselor,
Mhm.
because my opinion may not work for you.
Yeah.
So maybe you need to get a professional
Right.
that can, that deals with this on a regular basis, because he understands, sometimes, you say something and then they say, well, you said that this was going to work. It's like,
Right.
everybody needs a different view sometimes.
Yeah.
That's right.
That perspective is important, man.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
Definitely.
we, like you said, it's not that we're not wrong per se, but having different viewpoints and different perspectives just allows you to just have a very holistic.
Right.
Viewpoint and approach to certain things. And I think that's
Right.
important.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Because right off the back, I wanted to bring this up because starting next week, July 16th, you guys are going to be having a 6-week, we call it a 6-week cohort, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And it's going to be called, you're going to put it.
Oh, right. I forgot.
I made her do the banner, so she.
That's what's
Come
up.
on, wifey, work with me, wifey.
I'm sorry.
That's
All
what's
right.
up. Yep. Make
So-
love better.
Yeah.
6-week group experience.
Mhm.
Where we're just taking couples through the process of just making their love holistically better. So play on words. It's not just about sex.
Mhm.
Obviously, intimacy and sex will be covered in that.
Right.
But just an opportunity for couples to grow, learn, explore, and walk away with some very practical, hands-on, boots on the ground things that they can do to see some transformation. For those that are looking for transformation, to see some level of maintenance for those that are looking for maintenance.
Mhm.
And then for those who are just really things just need to be sparked.
Right.
you know, and they just need that push to get them going. They'll get that.
Would this be online for people to join in, or is it just going to be a live thing from where you guys are?
So the couples have to register for it. It's a paid experience, and so the couples register for it. And the way that it works is there's a teaching video. So each week there's a teaching video, and there's some materials that they have to go through on their own.
Right.
And then we get together every week for a virtual mastermind Q&A session.
Okay.
Where we get to explore what they've gone through. They get to ask questions. We can put certain couples in the hot seat to talk about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens often, what we see is by week 3, like the couples are coaching themselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like they're in the mastermind, like, hey, you know what? You should try this and you should
Yeah.
do this. And in a teaching video, it said this and this. You know, you should probably do it this way. And we just sit back.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
The coaches start
Y'all open up a Pandora's box for them to start thinking more.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, they start coaching themselves, and then we just interject things and just make sure we steer the conversation
guide them.
in the right way. But yeah, they start coaching and encouraging each other.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
that's
it's
what that's what you're looking for.
Yep.
That's the whole point of it. And I like the cohorts. We keep it really small and intimate.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we can pay attention to all of the couples.
Mm-hmm.
All of the couples get an opportunity to speak. Because if you've ever been on a live event or this type of cohort or mastermind, if it's a lot of people there, everyone doesn't speak up or everyone doesn't feel comfortable speaking up.
That's
because
true.
There are some people who are more type A personality, so they're always going to speak.
Wow.
And then you have those people that are more type B personality, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I should say anything. I'm just going to sit back and receive all the information. And we found that when the cohorts are smaller, everyone feels comfortable, everyone feels seen, everyone feels heard. And so we only limit it to 8 couples.
And there's never
per cohort.
There's never anybody who does not talk.
Right.
Oh, okay, got you.
You know what I mean? Because that environment, well, first we do our best. I'm not saying we're perfect at it, but we do our best to make the environment welcoming.
Definitely,
yes. You feel comfortable. The people that you see when you see us live are the same people you get in the cohort, right? So we're laughing and joking. It's a serious thing, but like we're not like,
yeah, you're making it interesting for them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not lecture style at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that helps because I was in a group thing, man. I'll never forget, man. I was in a group experience and there were like almost 60 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's too much.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, for the entire experience, I probably said something twice.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there were some people
you get lost with big groups.
You get lost.
Yeah, there were some people we never heard from.
Yep.
Like the entire time.
Right.
Wow.
So I'm like, how what do you get out of it? And even if you do get something out of it, you don't have that
one-to-one.
Right. You don't have that camaraderie. You don't have that conversation that allows you, just like what we were talking about, to expand your perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some people walk away with the same perspective they had. And that what's the point of that?
Right. And your main goal is to have people come in and go out changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the main thing.
How long is it normally? Because like I've always been told that if it's too long, you start losing interest, and then you only really like a person really only retains maybe 20% of what they are, taught.
Yeah.
So
how long is it when we get together each week?
Yeah.
How long
is it like? Yes.
How long is the session?
It's about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Between an hour and a half.
It's set for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But it can go over a little bit.
But we block an hour and a half because it always goes over.
Oh well, like
always.
Doing this, we want to do it in an hour, but we never. You'll be at 55, and then you have something else you want to talk about, and it takes 20 minutes. Like,
and what's crazy is when they start coaching themselves,
right?
It goes even longer. So in our last cohort, we had a session go 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it wasn't because of us.
Right.
It was them.
We just sat back. It was because the couples were back and forth. Hey, you know what? Yeah, you're right about that. You know what? When my wife says such and such, or my husband, and we just let it rock.
Because we're not gonna end the conversation and be like, all right, everybody, stop talking. We gotta go.
Right.
Because it's for them, right? And
especially
so
if they interested, they in it. You know what I mean?
In it, and we don't want to quench that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my other last question was nothing but that, but what time? do you have a set time, or is it just based on, because you have 8 different people, so 8 different couples, so is there a time, or is there like because
So-
like say like we're in the UK,
Right.
and if we wanted to do it, you know, would it be at like 7 o'clock that evening, which would be 12 o'clock our time?
So
yeah,
Yeah.
you do it in the morning.
Yeah.
Typically, and we haven't had a UK couple now that I'm thinking about it.
Right.
We had a couple in Canada, we had a couple some other places, but typically what has worked, what has seemed to work for the cohorts has been around this time on Sundays.
Okay.
That's what has typically worked.
You do it on this Sunday, on every Sunday.
Yes.
The mastermind. Yeah, we typically do the mastermind Q&A on Sundays.
Okay.
There was one cohort where we did it on Saturdays, I think.
Yeah, if I remember.
I think there was one, and that was because of the scheduling. But
Mhm.
typically what would happen is, based on where the couples are, like if we got a couple from the UK and South Africa and those kind of places, then before we have our first before we send out the first teaching video, we would coordinate with everybody.
Yeah, we
what
try
works.
to coordinate as best as we can.
Yeah.
Something that would fit everyone as close as possible.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, that's good to know, because when we play this on Inventors Radio, people that may be interested,
Mhm.
then they'll be like, "Oh,
I'm asking because I'm interested."
Right.
That's the whole point. Listen, I'm a firm believer. Just because we
it's always
do this
room to
podcast
improve
don't
in your
mean
marriage.
that we can improve ourselves.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
definitely.
And
Definitely.
listen, we get something out of it every time.
Mhm.
For us, it's 85% the same material every time for us.
Right.
But we still get something out of it every time.
Yeah, definitely, because
every
you're dealing
couple
with
is going to be
people.
different.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Why you think like me?
Boy, stop getting in my head.
Yeah.
Get out.
And we're doing cohorts throughout the year. So
Okay.
it's not a one and done.
Right.
Sometimes we spread them out. But it's not a one and done. We'll always have cohorts that start.
So we're in for the future.
Yeah. So if
we know for the
July
future,
16
we can start putting some money aside.
Yeah. So if July 16 for folk who it's too short notice, there's another one will be announced.
Yeah,
So
there'll be more.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And even beyond all of that, I mean, not only are you doing that, because you are a marriage. What do you consider yourself? Coach. Right. I couldn't think of coach for some reason. I kept thinking counselor, but it's not counselor.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
But you also do like men stuff, because you have the book.
Yeah.
Which will lose me at the moment. I saw it and I read it.
Overcoming the man loss.
Yeah, man. All right. Right.
Mhm.
You have that book out, which I was looking to get, but I didn't get it yet, but I'm gonna get it.
Right.
And then you do a couple other things. Because you're multi-versatile. Besides doing this, you also do entrepreneur. You do a life of an entrepreneur.
I do the Life of an Entrepreneur podcast.
Right.
Matter of fact, with a group that's based in the UK. The Love Entrepreneurs group is based in the UK, and it's a fellowship of entrepreneurs that basically get together to encourage and support each other. They are also a subsidiary of a company that has their own currency.
Oh, wow.
And so it's modern day bartering. So say, for example, you do sound production and I do graphic design, and I come to you and say, hey man, I need you to produce this thing for me. And you're like, yeah, it normally costs $1,000, but you can pay me 50-50. So 50 in this particular currency, because we're part of this group.
Right.
And then 50 in cash. So there's it's an interesting setup.
Oh, wow.
It's growing. So more people, trust me, you and I will talk about it at some point. The only reason I haven't said a whole lot about it is because there's some pieces that are still being put together.
Gotcha.
Because now it's expanding. It started in the UK, but it's expanding to South Africa, to Spain, to the United States. And so as those pieces come together, you'll hear me be a lot more vocal about it.
All right, cool. Got anything, Todd?
Oh no.
I'm sorry. I can't help but keep messing with. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, like we was talking about marriages, we always say marriage is hard work.
Yes.
You guys, you've been doing it after dark. That's how I've been watching you guys. Last night was something I wanted to bring up on the podcast, because you was talking about dictating what another person wears. And I'd asked her earlier today, and about that, and she was like, "Yeah, you can dictate." But afterwards, listen, I was shocked. She said yes, because what did I say? What did I say last night? I said she'll hit me over the head and curse me out. But she was like, "Oh no, you can dictate," and I'm like, "Why you always gotta be so difficult?"
No, only because I feel like if I'm dressing a certain type of way, then that that represents you and my children. So I just can't be going out looking any type of way just because I can.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I thought of something too. If I feel a certain type of way to you and you feel a certain type of way to me, I wouldn't want to dictate in a sense that I'm the boss of you type thing.
Like
That's
control
not the type of relationship that we have. So why would I even want to come at you like that? But as far as saying, we represent, we have a certain standard for our marriage. This is what we represent. And I, if I want to talk to him and say, I don't feel like that represents, like you said, what we say that we stand for. In that way, yeah, that's a conversation. But for me to say, you ain't wearing that, take that off, I don't like it. That's a dictatorship. And
it is.
If we love each other and we're building this up how we feel like it should be built up, then we wouldn't even want to talk to each other that way.
Definitely. I don't never like that control factor in a relationship.
Exactly.
One person have to feel like they have to over dominate the other person.
Yeah.
I don't never think that's necessary.
Yeah.
And not just in clothing, but in anything, finance or whatever.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's interesting, man, because I would love to do some research to see how many couples actually have this conversation about dress ahead of getting married.
Right.
Yeah, I would say not.
Now before we got married, I used to dress a little bit more thing. But I think it was because it was for me. It's not really for him. It was for me trying to make myself feel better. But now I'm at a place you grow more.
Well, no, that was because it was just your upbringing.
No, let me speak for myself. Okay. It wasn't for my upbringing because my father didn't always like the way I dressed all the time.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was mostly for myself.
Yeah.
That's why I did it.
But I never even dictated, because I remember first time I met her, we went to church and I took her to a conservative Adventist church. Very conservative. This my beautiful wife had on not tight jeans, but fitted jean top with some heels and then like a little jean jacket. And I had on the whole suit. You do the Adventist, you go in the suit tie, and I picked her up and I didn't say nothing to her. And I took her to church just like that. And when we got to church, the look she got, and I apologize, she did feel a little uncomfortable, but I said, I was not going to tell you, oh, you need to go back inside and put on something different. No, because I didn't want my wife, that would have started off the relationship right there in a bad way. Because then she's like, like, why are you, what's the problem? I can't come the way I feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
She felt comfortable.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable. If they don't feel comfortable, they'll just have to deal with it.
That's right.
On them,
yeah. I agree with that.
Mind you, I wasn't at Vince's. You remember, I was Sunday worship.
I know.
But then I wasn't used to going to church on
a Saturday.
Yeah,
she thought that was
worship
weird.
Service. It was only either a funeral or something like that. It wasn't necessarily like that. So
if you went to church on a Saturday, you was getting paid to sing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, but as my mindset changed, I decided to change how I, view myself on an outward appearance. So that, that changed as time went on.
Yeah. And that's how it should be. I feel like you said, if you would have said something to her, that would have that's happened to my sisters. My sisters would go to church now and then. And when they went to church, the mothers of the church would say, oh, take off your jewelry, all that type of stuff.
I've been through that.
And that stopped my sisters from going to church. So it's super important to make people feel welcome. Would Jesus have done that? If
we had elders, we had older women give us money. Oh, do you need money to buy your wife a dress?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I've been down there.
No lie.
Wow.
You know what I did? I took the money and said, thank you very much.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm like, yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
I do.
I sure did.
Hit me off every month.
Because hit me up every month. Just, put it in my account. Just put it, because Ty was singing. So she used to get up and she'll wear like like sleeveless.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a tattoo on her arm, and I think you have a tattoo.
Yeah, I had a
right.
Yeah, I have a
so
tattoos.
they was because she had the tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, come on, get over it. Like, listen to what she's singing. Don't look at her.
But you got to remember, I was just getting back into the church, and I forgot how church people can be. You know what I'm saying? They bold people. They'll just come
you
right
was
up
new
and
to the
see.
church.
I was new to the Seventh Adventist church.
You was new to the church, right?
But I was just saying, like, going into that type of thing, it could be a turn off for some people going into another religion and singing and trying to just know God for yourself, because they didn't know where I was in my mindset.
Sure
you know
did.
what I mean?
Yep, they didn't know where you were, and
Yeah,
that can be very discouraging.
Yeah,
I got
it took us 5. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
They didn't know it took you 5 years to become Adventist, because we was married for 5 years before she decided to become Adventist. I've never been a dictator to my wife. I've never dictated. Like, we got together and we went to church both days for a little while. Then we went some days Sunday, some days Saturday. I did that, but I never once said to my wife, "You need to become Adventist." It's not until we actually met somebody, we had some counseling, and the first thing the pastor said was, "What do you want to be? Do you want to be Baptist or you want to be Adventist?" Like that, he just came right out and said that, and she was like, "I want to be Adventist," and I looked at her like shocked, because we never had that conversation.
Because I knew that we couldn't keep going like we were. We having children together. We couldn't have them split. In the sense of Christian values, what we wanted for them. So I had to. I just prayed about it, and God just took me that way.
Okay.
That's what's up.
I love it.
That's what's up.
I love it.
So how long have you guys been married?
We've been married for
September will be 23 years.
September is coming up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh well. He forgot.
Well, you know what? I'm glad
he's
I
like,
asked the question.
you know what? He's like, I'm glad you asked, because I sure didn't forget.
The days and months are going by so fast. Because when you asked that question, in my mind, I was like, in the fall, it'll be 20. We'll be 20. I'm like, wait a minute.
That's
It's
in
fall
a
month away.
Wow.
That's in a couple months.
Man.
Literally a couple months.
Yeah. So
We go
coming up on 23.
18 in October.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, so wait a minute. So 23 years is a long time.
It
Years is a
So
long time.
God has blessed you guys to go through the good and the bad. Like, what advice would you give people that want to enter into marriage, and people that question?
That's a good question.
I always say, when people ask me that, talk about everything. Leave nothing to chance. Don't assume that the other person will know how you feel. Talk about everything. Because I think that for us, particularly for me, because of just my communication style, that wasn't how it was for us in the beginning. And so I'm just thinking he should be this way, and he has no idea that I'm thinking that way.
Right.
I didn't express my feelings a lot or completely in the beginning. So I always say, when people ask me that, talk about everything. Leave nothing to chance. If they already knew it, then fine. And if they didn't know it, then that's the advantage. Now they know.
Yeah, that's good. I would say to attach to that too, because you talked about expectations, kind of.
Right.
I think it's important for couples to set the correct level of expectations around what marriage is even going to be.
Right.
Because a lot of folk don't get into marriage looking at it as a journey. So we're the marriage ministry leaders for a church here in Baltimore, and right now we're going through, for this year, the series has been, we're going through the traditional vows line by line.
Right.
So we're about to get to the nitty gritty, which is for better or for worse.
Okay.
Like for those of us who say those traditional lines, we say them. I can tell you right now, I told the group at church, I said all those words, but that was a means to an end for me.
Right.
I was just trying to get to the honeymoon part.
Right.
I knew that in order to get to the honeymoon part, I had to check these boxes. And one of those boxes was to say these words, repeat after this dude, and say these words. That was it.
See, I told you, remember what I just said to you, when you think the first thought that popped in my head when you said that? I was just trying to get in the pants. I was just trying to get the thrust.
But that's a lot of people.
That's where I could get to.
100%.
That's a lot of people going into marriage. That's the only thing they want to go for.
Yeah.
100%. I got married so that I could feel great about having sex.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's it.
I did.
Now, I'm not saying I didn't love her, and I'm not saying we weren't great friends and we had a good relationship.
Right.
But I could have had all of that without walking down the aisle.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have been
But
cool
that's
with that.
true. That's true.
You know, and so now and what happens is when couples go into it and they don't realize, hey, this journey has the potential for everything that you think can happen on a journey, both good and bad.
Yeah.
When they hit a wall, they're like, oh, nah, I didn't sign up for that. Yes, you
Right.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You said for better or for worse.
That's right.
That's what you signed up for. So when worse is here, figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Wow.
I think setting expectations in the beginning is very important. And that's not to scare people. That's just so that when you, God forbid, you do run across something that's a little tense, that you're not shaken to your core, and that you
Right.
understand, hey, this is part of the journey. Hey, we got a flat tire. Okay, let's look for the spare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or let's call AAA if we don't have a
Right.
spare. So you might have to bring somebody in. And just
Mhm.
knowing that up front, I think can be helpful in how you navigate.
That's good because
Wow.
I think that you can't anticipate everything
Mhm.
that's going to happen
That's true.
after you get married. So
That's
why
true.
not get all of the things out of the way that you can get out of the way
Mhm.
before you get married?
Yeah.
Talk about all that stuff and set your expectations and all of that stuff because things will happen that you do not anticipate in your
That's
relationship.
true. That's
I
true.
think
It's funny
we've
you said
set
that, Denise.
people up.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I think we've set people up though to
Yeah.
to hit a wall and then not know what to do because the social construct designates that it's happily ever after. That's all
Yeah.
you hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear that in the Disney movies. It's ingrained
Yeah.
in us as kids. They rode
Mhm.
off
The man
into the
was with the woman.
sunset.
Mhm.
Yep.
happily ever- And then when we get in it, we're like, wait a minute, I ain't happy. Like, what's happening right now?
Wow.
You know? And
I was
so-
just saying, I love disagreeing with Denise. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I just laughing at what you just said because you did a show a couple of weeks ago where you talked about actually even yesterday about details. And so like for us when we got together, I was honest about everything because I had already been married twice. I was divorced twice, and she was my third wife. We went right into it. She said, "Look, if you want to be with me, I want children." So I knew that if I was going to be, if you don't want children, I can't mess with you.
Well, yeah, because
We
I was so
can't,
young.
right.
I was what 20,
21. Yeah. So
So,
she was
yeah.
young. So, but she already had that in her head. I want children. So if you want children, fine. We can see where this is going to go.
Mhm.
But I guess because I've been married before, my maturity level was higher because I was over 30 by then. I told her everything.
Mhm.
So I talked about all my sexual partners. I told her about all my faults. I told her about pretty much everything, like I was upfront about everything.
Now the partner part, I was like, whoa, like wait, you went a whole like what was going on there?
You're like,
you know?
all right.
So Tara, that's a good question. Like, would you have needed to know that?
I
Yes.
guess I would have because my partner, I had partners too, but it wasn't as many as he had. He had he could write a book about it, I was just like, what did you get out of all of these women that you needed to have this many partners?
Yeah.
I think that was my thinking.
And what did I tell you?
Because my thing was then, what can I give him that he haven't already probably had?
Wait. And what did I tell you? Because I'm funny you said that because this is what I told her. And I was honest with her. I said, and it's gonna sound weird when I say this, but you'll see where I'm going with it. I said the sex with my wife is wonderful, but the sex I had with the other ladies was better, but it wasn't. But it's only because I was lusting.
Okay.
You understand? I was lusting. I think I think we were just talking about like the expectations, and when you get married, sometimes you get married because we want to have the sex, but sometimes it's not really love that you're having. You're lusting after the person, and when you start lusting after the person, the sex is great, but you really don't love the person, and then that's why sometimes when you hit that wall too, you're just like, you know what, you're not even worth it. I'm done because the sex is they say, oh, the sex is wonderful, but you're just too much drama.
Yeah.
So I said, I was lusting a lot and sowing my oats and lusting, but I was, and
You
I was
wasn't
enjoying
taking time to get to know the women.
Right, I wasn't getting my time to know the women, and so so that's why I said, and I was honest. I said, and that doesn't mean that I love my wife. and I only want to be with her. But that's what I was just making that point, and that's why I think I was just, it was just something to do.
I get that. I get that.
So wait a minute, for men, it's basically just something to do. It's no type of emotional attachment.
If a woman comes and say, "Hey, you want something?" We're gonna be like, "Yeah."
So I would agree with that. For men, and I'm not going to say that it's just that, but I think the difference with men is that we can separate it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It takes nothing for me to separate sex from emotion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, how do you guys do
nothing?
That?
It's because it doesn't. It's just part of our makeup.
Yes,
it's part of our makeup.
So you basically attach yourself to who you want to. Is that what it is? Basically,
you can say it that way. Yeah, because I'll give you a great example. So, of all the women that I dealt with in college, the thing that drew me to Nisi was that she and I had a level of friendship that I had never had with any other person.
Wow.
Up until that point.
Wow.
And so me recognizing that caused me to put more emotion into our experience.
Okay.
Than anybody else's.
Okay.
So it's almost like when you realize, okay, there's some benefit to this beyond just the activity of sex.
Right.
Then we can add the emotional component. But I believe for women, that emotional component is just attached to everything in some degree or another. And with men, it's not. With men, it's literally, when you like they coined the phrase sexual activity, it's literally activity.
Wow.
It's entertainment.
Wow. Exercise.
It's exercise. It's a stress reliever. It's what you call it, whatever you want.
Yeah.
For some people, it's a game. For some people, it's all kinds of stuff for guys, because we can separate those two things.
Conquest. Sometimes it's a conquest.
So Denise, my question for you is then, so when you met Oliver, did you already have a concept of what you wanted a man to be for yourself? Like, when you saw him, did he meet those requirements?
No, he did not.
Oh.
I was not attracted to him at all.
Really?
I don't believe that, but let's go with that. Let's go with that for the sake of the podcast.
What clicked?
Not physically. I thought he looked amazing. He looked great.
Right.
But I knew the type of person, or I didn't know for myself, but I had heard about the type of person that he was.
Okay.
And so me being a single mother of 2 little girls, I was like, this cannot happen.
Don't want that drama.
I don't want that drama.
Right.
Not necessarily, not just because I don't want that drama, but I have 2 little girls that are looking at me.
Right.
And watching me. And so I was like, I'm not trying. He looked good and all of that. He looked mad good. He's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to go down that road.
Right.
And before I moved to Michigan and met him, not immediately before, but the relationship before him was not a good one. So honestly, I was just like, I'm just going to raise my 2 little girls. I'm not even thinking about men right now.
Wow.
I have nothing in mind as to what I even want, because this past relationship was not great. Right. And I don't know, maybe need time to heal before I can even think about what I really want.
Wow,
I ain't trying to go down that road.
Yeah. So she wasn't, she ended up being the person that I complained to.
I got you.
All these other chicks.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I got
you. So she had heard about me, and then got to kind of see firsthand, okay, yeah, what I heard is true, because this dude is complaining to me about all these other folks, right?
Right.
So, yeah, so that's actually how it started. But what I got from that is, I was like, man, I've never experienced something where I could just like talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I would go to her, I would like, literally her apartment became like a haven.
Gotcha.
I'd go over there and study.
Yeah.
I would go over there and study. I would go over there and she'd make me something to eat, and I could just talk. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like,
wow.
Gotcha.
Why can't I have this and that? Like, how does that work? Like, I've never experienced that. It's either this with nothing happening, or it's everything happening and just immense drama. I was like, how in the world do we make, how do I get both these worlds to collide? Like,
right. I was just telling the teacher about that.
That's what I was just gonna say. That's why you was asking how can men separate it, but she just Denise just said, see, women are more visual, more like when she had the issue where she had, and she wasn't even thinking of having another man in her life. A woman could, like a man, he can have a bad relationship and the next day get with another woman.
Yeah. Yep.
And don't think twice about it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, getting with the next woman is the therapy for the relationship, the bad relationship.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I call a rebound marriage.
Type of thing. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I was just telling Pedro that if we would have got to know each other first, like you guys did in the beginning, before you even got into, if we would have experienced that first, get to know each other, fall in love with each other, personality, just being around each other, then the intimacy part would have came as like a boom, like a extra gift, I guess I would say.
Like,
you know, if we would have got married, married first and then had sex instead of having sex first and then get my feelings intertwined, and then my thinking is different because I'm making decisions on how I feel because I have gave myself to him. Did that make sense?
It makes sense.
It makes sense. Now let's be clear.
In the beginning,
we put the cart before the horse.
Yeah, we did.
Let's be clear about that. But
not immediately.
But not immediately.
Yeah.
Not immediately. So when I first met her,
3 weeks is short.
She said 3 weeks is short. Yeah, we had a little longer stretch than 3 weeks. So when I first met her, so I don't know, Pedro, last night if you heard when we were talking about the choir and like the alto section.
No, I said I was with you for an hour and 20 minutes. So you fell asleep. Anything after that, I fell asleep.
So we met in college. I was the musical director for a choir, for a gospel choir.
Okay.
She was in the alto section. So I'm like I'm throwing a wide net for these sopranos and altos, like come one, come all kind of situation, right? So when I met her, we were literally just friends.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
because she said she was like she's not gonna go there. She heard about who I was and that kind of thing. But we sparked a really great friendship. Yeah. And I loved the girls, and the girls loved me. When I met her through the youngest of our two daughters, because I worked in the daycare where she was.
Okay.
So she knew him before I knew him.
So the class, Stephanie was in my class. I was a teacher's aide in the daycare. That's how we met. So we just became friends, and we knew each other. It was probably 5 or almost 6 years before we actually got married.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was probably maybe 3 years before we even recognized, okay, this is going somewhere different.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because I was dating somebody.
Okay.
When we first met, I had a girlfriend. And it was tumultuous.
Okay.
So she was the soundboard. And then after the girlfriend, after I finally escaped, I was like, oh yeah, I'm never getting in another relationship.
Oh wow.
I'm just packing and stacking. That's it. I'm gonna live my entire life that way.
That's a man's motto. I agree.
I was like, I'm not wasting, because I was like, man, I wasted 2 years of my time in this tumultuous relationship. That's never gonna happen again. We just gonna see
that's what happened to me. You don't even realize that.
Really, what happened?
That I was in my second marriage was tumultuous. I don't deny that. And I left and moved to Alabama. And then I was dating other women, and I was whatever with other women. But when I met you, I just knew. And I guess I just knew. When I met Tara, I just knew. Yeah. I said it was like when I met you sitting in a car and like a halo just came over her head, and I just knew. I was actually on a date when I met my wife. I went, took the other date home, was like, I don't feel good, took the other date home. And then I came back to my nieces and I was talking to Tara and we exchanged numbers. And I was actually dating somebody at the time. I went over to Georgia, broke it off of her, and then came back because when I met Tara, I just knew. It was just like, boom. Her aura was so amazing that I just like, I gotta find out. And I'm like, I've been down that road of like just different women, and like I'm not happy. And I'm like, and then I met Tara, and I was like, you know what? I think she can make me happy. I gotta investigate. And and see if she's the one that can make me happy. So I just dropped everything and then just concentrated on Tara. Because trust me, because she was younger, the first couple of months of our relationship, she was breaking it off with me like every week. She'll break it off with me and then call me up and say, "Oh, can we talk?" Or she'll break it off.
I ain't gonna. And my mindset was I wasn't ready for it because I knew you was an older gentleman, and I knew
with 2 boys,
maybe you'll be ready. You know,
kind of like Denise. I had 2 boys.
I was afraid to walk into that path. You know, I was because I wasn't sure what I was going to enter into. And then when you told me about being married, having children, I told my parents because I said them everything. They was like, "Don't do it, don't do it." You know, you still young, you got your whole life ahead of you. But then as I started to talk to Pedro, I was like, he's nothing like. I had already had a preconception of what I thought he may be. And then already his conversation was just different. I started to fall in love just with that alone.
And that's why I say that even though we did get the cart before the horse, it didn't really hurt us in the long run.
Right.
Because I don't recommend this, but in our instance, it didn't really hurt us in our development of our love for each other. You understand? I don't think it hurt us as you make sometimes like what would have been different. I don't think it would have. I never think like it's not gonna be different. The way we did it was right because it got us to where we are now.
Right. I knew I wanted marriage. I wanted children because I saw my parents do it. They was married 30 odd years. So seeing them, I wanted that. And I knew the younger guys that I was dating wasn't ready for what I was ready for. He was. And once I knew that he was going to be, you know, firm and he was going to just focus on me, I was happy. I was happy to know that he was going to his concentration not on me and not other women.
But also I had to sell myself to your family.
You did. My family
but I didn't really
like
sell myself. No, but that's the thing though. Even though her family did not like me, I was always, and it's just me, polite. I was always helpful. If her mother said, "Hey, can you help me do this?" or "Can you take me down the street?" I took her. Never complained. Just did it. Rearrange the house, rearrange rooms, did it. Whatever was asking me, I did it. And it was more like I didn't do it because I was trying to gain favor. I did it because my mother and my father brought me up that way to always respect your elders and always respect the other your relationship, my partner's family. I was always respectful to them. And it was not, and I think after a while, at first they thought I was trying to like get over with them, but then they realized that's just me. So once they realized it was just me, then they kind of warmed up to me a little bit.
Right.
I think that's interesting too, because I don't know, tell me what you think. I think for Nisi too, no matter what reputation I had,
right,
at the core, I was a nice guy.
Right.
I was not a jerk. Now I had jerk tendencies. And it would come out if I needed it to. But at the core, I was a nice guy, I think, based on how I was raised. And so I think that helped a lot too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like you, Tar, I think that even though I heard what I heard about him, and so I had my preconceived notions as well about Ali, but it wasn't until we started talking and having conversations, I was like, I see everything that they're saying, but like you said, at the core, this guy is really nice.
Yeah.
This guy, there is really something to this guy.
Yeah. And I think what really helped me is when he came and he told me everything. And when people was coming to me telling me stuff, I wasn't surprised. I was like, he already told me that already. Because people was already in the business of.
And I knew this was the case. I said, I'm telling you everything. And she was like, everything? I was like, everything. I ain't leaving nothing out. Because I knew that people was going to try to chop block me and be, he did this. He was arrested for that. He was doing this back in the day. He's got 2 kids. And I was like, nope. I told her everything.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
We say that in our pod, like we say it all the time, like, and it just worked for us. And not saying it's gonna work for everybody.
I think if people want to enter into marriage, should discuss the hard things.
They should know. Indeed.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody need no surprises through and through.
Right.
Have you ever been surprised?
No, that's the point. That's what I'm saying.
That's my point.
Yeah. And I think I agree with that. I mean, we can walk around the semantics of what details look like.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is that yes, you should definitely know the person you're walking down the aisle with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There may be some nuances of certain things that come out or like micro details that may come out, after the fact. But in terms of knowing who you're walking down the aisle with and understanding what you're getting into, that's necessary, because you don't want to find out it's it's more difficult to find out something major down the road in terms of having to figure out how to navigate that than to know what you're getting into up front.
Yeah.
Right.
That's weird, because I was gonna say, even through all that truthfulness that I told her, I still lied about the one thing, and it was a major thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I was broken when I met her, but I was hiding it so well.
Yeah.
She did not see the brokenness until we got married.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really did it. And
I didn't show it until we got married.
And I tell people, because I don't know if you guys heard our testimony, but when we went through the beginning of our marriage, and the first sign of abuse was physical for me, and I was like, that's something I said I was never going to put up with, but then I end up putting up with it, and only because I was like, this is not him. You know what I'm saying? I kept saying that, and God just kept showing me that, and even though I didn't want it, and I kept expressing to him how I felt about the situation. And the first time it happened for me, it just took me, it took me a minute to process like what just happened. You know what I mean? And I was like, where did this come from? Like you wasn't showing me this in the beginning. And that's those things that I think, I don't know, maybe they won't talk about. I think I remember asking you, have you ever hit a woman before? Remember I asked you that?
No.
He probably don't remember. And I think he said maybe he did once or twice, but I didn't take it to effect that, is that something that's, deep down that he's dealing with. I just wasn't at that point yet to see that, but wasn't until we got married, then it happened. I was like, is this gonna happen again? Like, it's like, how far is this gonna go? But it did happen. It wasn't like we had an argument, didn't happen. It happened at times when we had real big arguments, or we talking about his ex-wives and something like that. And it just kept getting heated and heated. And things of that nature.
It was trigger points.
Yeah, it was trigger points.
But not for you, more for me.
More for him, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Not your trigger. You saying whatever you said was, I had to learn whatever she said she's going to say. I just need to be able to process it in a better way. But and not process it in the way that I was processing it and then reacting to it.
Yeah.
I had to learn to react in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's what I.
Yeah, but the one thing I would say, I never looked at him differently because of it. It's just like God didn't allow me to stop loving him still. I felt like I still needed to be there for him, even if it was going on, because I deep down inside, I just kept seeing a different person that he was showing me.
And you did the one thing that's the best thing ever.
What?
You didn't tell your family.
Yeah, I made sure I didn't tell my family.
And I don't mean that. I'm smiling when I say that, but it was only because not telling your family allowed us to work through because if you had told your family, the pressure that you would have got from your family,
you wouldn't have been able to navigate it.
Like the situation,
yeah, it would have made it made it harder for us to work through what we worked through.
So I think,
that's
it just the light bulb went off in your head.
And because I'm thinking about, just because we've talked about this in the past, just family involvement. And the whole leave and cleave situation, I see that as you guys talk about that, because you have to have some level of discernment around how much involvement they have.
Yeah.
Right.
And essentially what you're saying, that in order for you all to navigate this successfully and heal and come out on the other side,
right,
there could not be any other involved.
Neither from either party, right. From my family and from her family.
I knew the first time that because the way my mother and my father operate, I knew the minute I would have said something, divorce would have been the next key for them, for me to walk out of the situation. But I never felt like God said, don't mention anything. So the times that I did leave, I left because I needed the space. And then when I came back only because after I had been gone for a while, only if I saw change and, getting counsel and talking to people. And once I did decide to come back and say, you know what, I don't know if he has changed, if I don't walk back into it. And I didn't want it. We had a son at that time. So I always wanted my children to have a father in their life. I could have been a single mother. I could have chose that way, but that's not what I wanted. And I kept praying and said, Lord, you got me. I can easily walk away from this myself. So I just kept saying, no, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep, pushing it out. We talked on the phone every day still, even though I was separated. And I just said, we got along better on the phone then still then sometimes when we was together. So once I did decide and God said, sorry, walk back into it, I started seeing changes slowly, but then it did start showing itself. And I was glad that I said, I'm glad I stayed, because at deep down, I still loved him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't like what I was getting, but I still love I knew God could take us to another level in our marriage.
Listen, I love reconciliation stories.
Yeah,
I love them, because we're in a day, and I'm not. And here's the thing, right? Where we have to be careful is that a reconciliation, like your reconciliation story, is not always a license for somebody else to do the same thing you did.
Well, yeah, I never suspected that
right?
people going to then have the same experience I had.
Right. But a reconciliation story is proof that we can navigate this journey, this marital journey, and deal with the better and the worse.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that and that's why I love reconciliation stories, because it's proof that it's not just words. Like, you can navigate for better and you can navigate for worse.
I totally agree. And when he took responsibility for his actions and stopped blaming me about, I did this because you made me feel this way, or type of situation. Once he finally said, I said, until you do that, I can't. You have to start seeing yourself for what it is, because I'm looking at you, but for some reason you're not seeing yourself. And once he started to do that, once he started taking responsibility and talking about it himself to other
said both
people,
of us. You didn't just say me.
Yeah, what I knew I needed to change. I'm not saying that it was just me. I had my points too, but the one thing that was weighing it down was the abuse.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying you said both. You because we always say, like, in marriage, when you're talking to your spouse, you say you say, like, you do like we. So, like, you have a problem, you say, you'll say, I was thinking about this problem. What do you think? Like, or like, we have this situation, and even if you're at fault, or she's at fault, or the other part, you don't say you at fault. You say, this is something that we both did wrong. How can we fix this situation? Like, no, because as soon as you say, if I just said I or you, then defense comes right up, and then it starts another argument.
Because once I got fed up with the situation.
Well, no, that's why I was just saying that you were saying that you said we.
Right.
You didn't say me.
Once I got fed up and said, I'm not dealing with this anymore, I'm talking. Because at one point I just mute about it the whole time. And then once I started expressing and started talking to a confident friend that we still friends today, and the counsel that we had, that really helped me. You know what I'm saying? To then, still be in this marriage. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
So I was never embarrassed about it, and I'm not to this day. At one point I was, because I didn't want people to see my husband as a monster or a different person, because at the end of the day, everybody deal with some sort of abuse in their marriage, whether it's physical, mental, or whatever it is, emotional. People deal with abuse and they just don't talk about it. But I'm here for it. I'm talking about it. I'm letting you know this is what I went through. Not saying you can walk the same path I went, but maybe if you try this, maybe if he take responsibility, or yourself, because men deal with abuse too.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
And you said what? 18 years?
Yeah.
18 years.
Yeah. And we talked to our children about it. I talked to them about it one day when I wanted to do the testimony on a public platform, and they was like, "So are y'all good today? Are y'all good?" We was like, "Yes."
So
they gave us a hug. They went on about their way. You know what I'm saying? I like to tell my children about things, because one day they may see it.
Right.
Yeah, because it's real life. It's real life, and we live in this real world. So
oh yeah, and we don't live in definitely. And that's how we try to raise the children, is by just giving them real, honest answers. Like, don't try to sugarcoat it. We're not gonna beat around the bush. I don't like beating around the bush anyway. I hate, going left and right. Just go straight down the middle and just get right to the point.
Mhm.
Let's rip it. Let's just rip it, and then we can heal it
Right.
after we rip it.
Mhm.
You know. So
Right.
that's
That's
just
what's up. Yeah,
Right.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So have y'all dealt with a couple that had some type of abuse issues that you had to deal with couples?
We have
Well,
dealt.
you have.
Yeah, I
Was
have.
I
I
in that
have.
one? Was I in that session?
I think there
don't-
was one couple that
Yes.
we did.
Yes.
We worked
Yes,
with
yes,
together, and then I've had a few that I've worked with by myself.
Mhm.
And there's two sides to the coin. So with us being coaches and not clinical professionals,
Mhm.
there are some elements of that you sometimes have to go the clinical route.
Right.
Because some elements like and Pedro, you said earlier you're talking about being triggered in certain ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of those things, the trauma that creates those triggers is not something that should necessarily be unpacked in the coaching space.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it, but there are some components of that the clinical space is best designed for. So with the couples that we've worked with, there are couples that I've had to send to the clinical space. We did a clinical certification so that we would be aware of certain things.
Right.
We would be aware of certain signs and we could see certain things so that we know, okay, hey, this is the lane we're in.
Right.
Part of what you need right now is over in this lane.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we're going to recommend you to refer you to these other folks.
Yeah.
Right.
So there has been people that we've done that way. Then
Mhm.
there's individuals that we've been able to work through because they've dealt with the hard stuff. They've dealt with the trauma per se.
Right.
They just haven't garnered new tools to again to what you said, Pedro, to process differently.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you just like, hey man, I've always been using this hammer to try to put this screw in, and I'm not trying to break the table anymore, but I don't have a screwdriver.
Mhm.
And then we come in and say, hey, here's how you can do that.
Yeah.
Right.
More effectively. So
Okay.
All right, cool. Yeah, that definitely makes so much sense. I think when I went and asked the pastor for help, like you said, that's why he passed me on, because I think he realized that clinically I needed another type of help.
Yeah.
So he brought us to a point and then passed us on to a counselor,
Right.
a marriage counselor
Mhm.
that was able to, like, that was licensed and and that was able to then direct to give us, like, homework and really dig deep into what was some of the issues that I was dealing with and why I was reacting that way. So now when you just said that, it just flooded me all in my head, everything, like that's why he did that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I'm glad that
I didn't even pay attention to that, like why he did,
Yeah.
I'm glad he did that too, man, because there's some coaches who are unwilling to do that because they don't want to lose the client.
Right.
Oh.
Gotcha.
And you end up messing up the person if you do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if that's not your lane, right? So think of it like this. People always ask, what's the difference, right? And I explain it like this. A clinical professional, if we need to build something here in this space that we're in, two things have to happen. Either I got to take everything you see behind me out of here. I got to move everything out into a different location.
Right.
Or we're going to completely tear this thing down and start from the ground up.
Mm.
There's a certain company that does excavation.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dude who's running the wiring and the electricity.
Right.
That ain't his lane.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the excavator.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So in the clinical space is the excavation. Okay, what's behind this wall? Why is this doing this? How come this is leaning? How come that's the person who does that? Then you got a whole new group of people that come in to start building and laying the foundation and putting up the new walls and putting up the wiring. That's the coaching space.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of coaches try to do both and they end up screwing up the person. So what we would often do, and we would tell couples this all the time, we're going to do a series of sessions with you.
Right.
In that series of sessions, if we begin to see signs, we are only going to go but so far.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we're going to send you to the clinical space because there's some excavation that needs to be done. and then you come back for what we're going to do in terms of building you up for the future. But in order to build something up for the future, you got to deal with the past.
Yeah. Past is important.
Yeah. So I'm glad he did that, man, because
kind of like building a house.
Yeah, we've seen where coaches have tried to be in both lanes, and that's dangerous.
It doesn't work.
And pastors too.
Yeah, and pastors too.
There are a lot of pastors that are not clinically trained,
right?
And so, you know,
and to be honest with you, when we went to the clinical part, and they was talking, you know, they went into his background with, you know, how he grew up and, you know, all of that. Once I heard all of that, I was like, wait just a second. I didn't know none of this.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Because I didn't, as much as I told her everything, some things I just suppressed. I didn't think about it until it.
And I truly believe that, because while we was doing the clinical and he was talking about it, I was like, dang, I see why this is, you know, not that it should have happened, but I see why this dispersed like this as we got together, because he never healed from his past hurt himself. You know what I'm saying? So he going from one, you know, relationship to the next one, to the next marriage. And it's just getting, you know, he building on just everything just wrong. And once we got together, it was like, why did I have to get the end of everything? Why did it have to blow up like this? But it's a reason why God allowed a lot of things to happen. But I was just really happy about the fact that now I know why my husband is hurting. And I know hurt people hurt other people. And not that he was intentionally trying to hurt me, because I knew that he loved me. It was just like, but the way he was displaying his love was different.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why those two spaces work so well together, because you're not intending, you know, many people are not intending to process the way they do. But it's like, if you know, Pedro, you said you were suppressing, right? So if you think of, like, if you have a rug on the floor and something falls down on the floor and you like, you know what, forget about it, I'm just gonna sweep it under the rug. We'll put it there. It's fine. You know, for the first few times you do that, it ain't gonna be no problem. You might see a little hump in the carpet, but it ain't no problem. You're gonna step over it, ain't no problem, right? You do that for years and years and years. You ain't trying to knock the person over, but there's this big boulder in the way. Right. Yep. So now the clinical space, you got to unpack it, lift the carpet up. What's this? Oh man, I've been looking for this thing for like the last 5 years. I didn't know it was under here. Definitely. And that's that process, right? Then when you get all of that done, then you bring in the folk that's going to clean the carpet and repair the floor, and you know, whatever the case may be.
That definitely was for me. I think what was the turnaround, I had a conversation with my father, because I didn't really have my father in my life, and I asked him for lunch, and we went to lunch, and it just opened up my eyes on a lot of things. It made me realize some things, and I was like, okay. And from that point, it kind of helped me understand why I was the way I was. Just sitting there talking to him, and his response and his demeanor, I was like, okay, that explains so much. Because I never had him around to see it.
Right.
So just having that dinner for like an hour and a half just opened up, like, okay, now I know. I think now I can kind of see, you know, and I was able to let go. It was almost like forgiving him.
Yeah.
I was like forgiving him because I was so angry at him.
Yeah.
So I have to forgive myself, and then I have to forgive him. But it just allowed me to kind of change and become different. You know?
Man, that's what's up, man. And the beauty for Ashes, you know, in this experience, man, is that one, you all get stronger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And two, you're able to now identify that in the couples that you guys get to serve.
Yeah. And we sit and talk about it. And I'm glad we at a space now where, you know, we're closer than we ever been. Which I love.
I don't know. Are we?
Yeah.
Sometimes I want the space. I think we're too close.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to bring up that because people don't like to knock on the door of the abuse and stuff like that in relationships.
Yeah. And it happens more often than we recognize, than we know or care to recognize.
Especially in the church.
Oh, bro.
We don't talk about it in the church. It is really,
it's taboo.
And I think that's why we've been pushing and trying to get a couple of things. When we was having the podcast the other day, we was talking about doing the marriage relationship, the marriage coaches, or the marriage relationship in the churches and stuff. Because everything, it's like you say, everything has to be swept under the rug. That's it's they say, oh, God will work it out. Right. Just pray to God. God will work it. No,
I knew God was going to work it out, but I still needed to have a lot of separation in between time.
You had to do some work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's necessary, man, because that does happen quite often in the faith-based space.
Yeah. Because actually, we got to do better about that. After we did our podcast on the abuse, the amount of people that contacted us that was in the church and was like, I've dealt with that.
Yes.
Was crazy. Yeah.
I was like, really?
And nobody thought of me as a monster. Like what Ty, and I told Ty, because I was pushing to do it for the longest.
Totally opposite of what I thought.
I was totally pushing her. I was like, Ty, we got to do this. We got to do this. It's going to help somebody. We got to do this. No. I'm like, no, Ty, we got to do this. We got to do this. And then finally did it. And it even helped my relationship with some of my family members.
Wow.
That I had kind of a strain in our relationship with some of my family members. And one particularly called me up and said, I didn't know. And I'm so sorry. That explains some of the things that you did back then. And I see that, and then it actually changed their eyes to say, I see you actually different. Because I think in the podcast we did, a lot of people saying to me they could see that I've changed because they knew me from before. Like they said, you said, like Denise, you said, people had a perception about me.
Yeah.
But when they saw me do that podcast, they saw the change that I had in me.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, he really has changed. And it wasn't until that podcast that people actually was like, wait, he actually has changed. Because a lot of people already had I'm a bad guy or whatever, which I really didn't care, but so
yeah.
I think it helps to talk, but we just don't like to talk.
Right.
Yep. And that's a great point, man. And I think that for many marriages, something we see often is that couples, even though we know there's a whole host of other married people around us, for some reason we tend to feel like we're walking this thing by ourselves.
Yeah.
And then to hear other couples, be very transparent and vulnerable about the pieces of their journey. And then, like you said, people just start reaching out to you, right? We need that. Right. We need people to be transparent and vulnerable about segments of their journey so that other folk can recognize, wait a minute, like we are on the same journey. They're just a little bit further down the highway than we are. Okay. So if they were able to navigate that, we can too.
Yeah.
And then they also, when you do that, you open up the path. I think people then, because I think some, like for you guys as coaches, people probably say, I wonder if they really like that in private. What they like, do they actually put what they say to use for their own marriage? So when you're transparent and you talk about that and you say, this is what we go through, they can say, I think some people are visual, or in that way, they say, well, wait a minute, they actually are having these issues. They not have this perfect marriage.
Right.
Because like some people try to portray the perfect marriage, nothing ever goes wrong. So I think that's why it's good to just to talk and get it out there. Because like you said, it makes people think, okay, nothing's perfect. Is actually maybe this is actually part of my journey that I'm supposed to go through.
Right.
Yeah. Because it is a journey, and once we recognize that, we it's all about perspective. And we tell couples all the time that your perspective around this has to change. We can do significant work around changing your behavior, but if your perspective does not change, and I say this in my book to guys, that behavioral change without mindset change is not sustainable long term.
Wow.
Yes.
So I can give you all the tools to process correctly. I can give you all the tools to do all of these behavioral changes. But if your perspective around this never changes, that ain't gonna last.
That's true.
You're right. Yeah.
A person got to want to change.
Right. And they have to know what their why is for
Yes.
making that adjustment.
That makes sense.
Because again, the why is part of your perspective, right?
Yeah.
So there were certain things like with Nisi that I was like, wait a minute, I want to have a certain kind of relationship, and I want her to feel a certain kind of way, and I want her to have a certain level of security in this relationship.
Yes.
So now, because that's my thought process and my perspective, what are the behaviors that I need to now make adjustments in to align with that?
Right.
That's not what I did in the beginning. In the beginning, I was like, okay, what is it that she wants? Okay, let me just try to do that. I ain't really care about it. I'm just trying to appease.
Yeah.
And that don't last. I might do it for a week, a month, 3 months, but then I'm not.
You always revert back.
Right.
Without
go right back.
Perspective change.
And I was actually thinking about that when you was talking about when you left. I would convince you to come back. I can change. And I would change for a month or two. And then I would revert right back to. It wasn't until you gave me the ultimatum and I had to sit there and say, what am I doing wrong here? And what you just said, Oliver, I had to like physically and mentally make myself think about everything that I was doing. So if we got into an argument, my brain was going a mile a minute of thinking during the argument, okay, keep your hands down. Don't raise your voice. Be calm. And the funny thing is, as I kept saying that to myself, after a while, it just became natural.
Yep.
I didn't have to think about it no more. It was just naturally there. It just happened. So at the point, I didn't have to say that. It was the voices left, and I didn't have to say it anymore. I just naturally did it because my perspective changed of why I was doing it and why I didn't need to do it.
And people ask me all the time, how did you make your husband change? I didn't make him do anything.
Right.
I didn't make him do nothing that he didn't want to do. I said at the end of the day, he had to make that decision.
Just like I can't make her do nothing she doesn't want to do.
And I tell guys this, right? I tell guys this because guys will resonate with this. This resonates with guys in particular. Is that for us, right? When we know the end, when we've identified the end game, it's very easy for us to reverse engineer. Right? So think about anything. Think about if you're working on a car, if you building something, whatever it is. If you know the end game, you can reverse engineer. So if I'm putting a grill together and I know, hey, listen, man, we about to barbecue today. The end game is that we got a barbecue. And I can easily reverse engineer. I need this. I need that. I need the grill. I need the coal. I need the this. I need the that. And then as you reverse engineer, now it's just one thing after the other to the end game. And so same thing with relationships. If I want my wife to feel secure, I want her to feel safe. I want her to feel loved. I want her to love me. I want her to desire me sexually. I want us to have a great relationship. I want us to be able to talk. That's the end game. All right, bro. What do I got to do? Okay, I need this. I start making the checklist. And I start doing the things and making the adjustments that allow me to get to the end game. And for a lot of guys, when I talk to them about that, they're like, "Oh yeah, okay." What do
That's
I
what
want?
I did. As I think about it, I didn't think about it. You just said that.
Yeah, and then they start thinking, "Man, what do I want? Like, how do I want this woman to treat me, or okay, all right, cool. Let's do it. And for guys, when they know that and they're confident in it, they're gonna run with it on their own. So to speak to what you said, Tara, like people ask you, how did you change him? You didn't.
I didn't.
He recognized the end game and was like, "Oh, we good. All right."
Do men do that? Do men do that in the like? I as you talk about that, I do that now in just our conversations.
So do I.
When I go to have a conversation with my wife, before I come with the conversation, I'm already, and she didn't know this, I'm already thinking, okay, what do I need? Because when I come to my wife with something, she's always like, but why? Or what do you like? I just know she's gonna go all over the map. She's gonna be left, right, and all over the place. So I have to have an answer. Because if I don't have an answer, it doesn't make sense to her. So I have to have, so I, like you said, reverse it. I think and have it all in my head. Okay, this is what I need. I need this, I need this, and that. So when I come, I could just, okay, and then I could backtrack it and do it backwards. And I didn't realize until you just said that.
Yep.
And then I'm thinking that's what I do now.
Yeah.
And it helps.
It does.
Because it allows us to have a conversation that doesn't get too emotional, or even like if she's having a bad day and I'm on the car, and when I get home, I already in my mind thinking how I'm gonna say this to her. What I'm not gonna say. How am I gonna respond?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you it's just a natural thing to start doing oh wow, when you said that, I never thought of it that way till you just put it that way.
Yep. That works for guys.
I just gave away my secret now.
Yeah, I know, right? Me too. I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
oh man, I just gave away my secret. Like, sheesh, that's gonna be like, you probably already had this planned already.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, that works. That works quite often to have, to understand what your perspective is, and identify what the end game is. Identify what the end game is. What is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want to experience? We ask couples this in the very beginning, in their very first session. We ask them 2 questions. The first question is, we need you to spend some time and identify what is your ideal marriage look like. What does your ideal marriage look like?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about no holes barred. Like if you were on the cover of Ideal Marriage magazine, why would you be on the cover? Because let us know what will be happening in your relationship. They identify it. And then the second question we ask is, are you willing to do whatever it takes to get that? And whatever means whatever. Stuff that you've never done before, stuff that you don't like to do, stuff that you thought you would never do. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to get to that?
Stuff that you feel like is unnecessary.
Stuff you feel like.
Oh, that's the main one right there. Why I need to do that, especially with a woman. And I'm sorry. And I hate saying that because I may get myself in trouble, but definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm there, bro. I can tell you there are several things in the beginning. I was like, this don't make no sense. I don't see the point in it. It's funny. I joke about active listening, right? Because essentially active listening is you being able to, at its base level, being able to repeat what the other person said to you. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Because if you said it, why do I got to say it?
Yeah, it's like I'm repeating myself.
Because we want to make sure that you're retaining.
She does that to me now. She does. She's like, did you hear what I'm saying? Yeah. What did I say? What you just said. But why I gotta repeat what you just said? You just said it.
Because I want to know that you're actually listening to me. So
I'm listening.
Ready to repeat it,
I am listening.
Then you retain. I'm like, okay,
trust me, I'm listening. You need to listen to yourself.
And listen.
You don't listen.
And listen, we're proponents of communication, so we know there's value in it.
Yeah.
But that's one of those adjustments that, are you willing to do whatever it takes?
Right.
That's one of those things. One of those things you feel like is unnecessary, but are you willing to do that in order to ensure that productive communication happens? And the answer has to, if the answer is yes, you want to see productive communication. If that's the end game, then part of you reverse engineering is going to have to be your willingness to add active listening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We just learned something new today. Something we didn't know we was doing. Why are you making all that noise?
I'm sorry. I was just moving.
You always tell me.
I was adjusting.
So with this whole thing, coming up to this interview or coming up to this moment, I was thinking, like, what in your experience are the like 3 major or 3 main things that couples, I don't want to say complain, but couples come to you with? What would be like the 3, in your opinion, 3? I know it's a lot more, and we can probably do like a whole day worth of talking about it, but like 3 major, what would be those 3 things?
I'm gonna let you see if you say the same thing.
I can think of 2 that I think are like right off the bat, and for sure the first one is communication. We don't talk to each other. We need to learn how to communicate properly. I feel like he's not listening to me. He feels like I'm not listening to him. So I would say the first one is communication.
Right.
The second one I would say would probably be sexual intimacy. I don't know what the
or
third
intimacy
one is.
across the board.
Intimacy across the board.
I think the third one is tacked on to communication. But
Right.
often we get couples who they cannot resolve conflict.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's been swept under the rug.
Yeah.
There are unresolved things that pop up into new conflicts, and that's just
Right.
compound.
Mm-hmm.
It's like compound interest of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, the specific things that people come to us for typically fall under those three buckets:
Mm-hmm.
communication, intimacy building holistically, whether it be sexually or just we not spending enough time together, we roommates now, whatever the case may be. And then we got all of this this big suitcase or big closet full of of baggage that we haven't unpacked yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and every
Or
time
we
something
keep
happens,
opening the door to the closet and then we close it.
Right.
Because we don't want to deal with it.
So when the new thing comes up, we like, oh, so see, here's you did this and this and this and this, but then that new thing don't get resolved either.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
So those are three areas we see quite often.
Wow, that's it's the other day I was getting life insurance, and the gentleman don't ask me why, but the gentleman asked me, "Oh, I just got married." And I was like, "Congratulations!" And then he goes and asks me, "So he was how you been married 18 years?" And he said, "What's the main thing or the one thing that you would tell me about, you know, because I just got married?" And I told him communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, communication is key. Communicate, because if she don't know what you're thinking, or you don't know what she's thinking, that's where you would then have the issue of little problems becoming big problems, because you're not letting each other know, even if it hurts, even if you don't like what they say, what you say to each other, you still have okay, well, this, I know what she, or I know he knows what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she knows what I'm thinking, or right. And then Ty was like, "No, shouldn't have been commit." And I was like, "Commitment." And I was like, "And you brought saying about being committed."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, but I think communication is more. Because I never thought of it in a sense of you could communicate all you want, but if you can't resolve, then doesn't that break down the communication? Because I honestly, I always say to people, communicate. Mm-hmm. But I never thought of the process of, even if we can communicate, then you still have the other, what you just said, the third one, resolving what you just communicated.
But the only reason I said commit was because when people not getting along, they're not talking and stuff, they quick to leave. So where's the commitment? So if you are committed in your relationship, regardless if you're not communicating, then you're going to stay. You're going to work it out. That's why I said commitment. To me, was number one.
I can see that. I would say I can see that.
To the Perrys. That's why she said that.
Mm-hmm. No, that's not true. I told you I said that. I said I had combined the relationship with Jesus versus how Jesus is committed to us. No matter how much wrong we do, no matter how much sin that we're in, he don't never leave.
Yeah.
He don't never leave us. He's always with us. You get what I'm saying? And we can mess up 100 times. He gonna always have the door open. So his commitment level to us, his love never wavers. That's basically what I was combining, the commitment to being committed versus the communication.
Mm-hmm. And that is true. But what did he do before he could? What did he did communicate to us what he wants?
Yeah, well, he showed us how to love.
Exactly.
But
so communication.
He never closed the door. With marriage, sometimes when you're not communicating, it's not working out, people will leave.
Right.
And divorce.
You know, in the ideal is what you just described. Mm-hmm. Like hands down. Like that is the ideal. Like for us to live, like in Ephesians, it says that I'm supposed to love her like Christ loved the church.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that means when the church is jacking up, when the church ain't acting right, when the church is disrespecting me, then I'm supposed to love her, right? Mm-hmm. So in the ideal, I'm not gonna discount or dispute that at all. Mm-hmm. What we often do for couples is make that practical for them. Mm-hmm. So for us, what we do with the commitment piece is break that into two parts.
Okay.
So the first part of your commitment is a decision.
Right.
So you have to decide, hey, here's what needs to happen. and here's what my responsibility and my role in making this happen is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second part of that is consistent effort,
Mm-hmm.
because commitment at its core is consistent effort.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to continue to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And even if this happens, here's what I said my responsibility was going to be. Here's what I said my involvement was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I said my contribution was going to be. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to consistently put in effort to do that.
Right.
And then adding that to all other components, like adding
Right.
that to communication, because there's an art to communication.
Right.
So part of your commitment towards communicating better is deciding that this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Then your consistent effort is going to involve you maybe learning your partner's communication style, learning your own communication style, learning how they like to be communicated to. And then the consistent effort is now continuing to do those things.
Right.
So so you're right. I'm with you 1,000%.
Yeah.
Because commitment based on what Christ does for us is counterintuitive to what we as human beings view as commitment.
Right.
Well, you know, I guess you have just brought me over to the other side, but I still say communication first. No, let me finish. I say the reason why I say this is because through everything we went through, my wife could have left, because I got deported from the States back to Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got deported, it wasn't like I could go back to the States. So my wife is in the States. If we were communicating, but if she wasn't committed, she could have just stayed in the States and went about her business, and there was nothing I could do. I couldn't find her. I couldn't come after her because I can't come back into the States unless I want to get locked up.
And that's my point. That's
and
why
then
I was
left,
committed.
And then when
from
I
the
left
beginning.
the Bermuda and came here, she didn't have to come this way either. She could have just said, you know what, I'm gonna stay in the States.
I could have easily done that.
The commitment that and I think that's what I saw in Tar when I first met her, was the commitment that even though she was up and down a little bit, she was always committed to make it work.
Yeah, because it was moments where I didn't love you sometimes. There was some moments
where
it was
moments
just
I didn't
the way
love you
it
too,
was.
so anyway.
But my commitment level to you, and I think because my relationship with Christ and how I saw my parents also go through their different chances, even though they had been married all that time, I could easily walk away. Walking away is always easy in a situation.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
When things get hard, you know,
I still say communication.
I'm going somewhere else, but then like you're gonna then find a problem in another relationship. Don't mean it's gonna be better,
right?
You know.
Yeah, I'll leave you with this, because I know we're probably killing y'all's time. I'll leave you with
this.
We're
fine, actually. If you got a little bit more time, we can go a little bit longer. If you got
these are the 7. There's 7 areas that we tell couples that you should be intentional about.
Okay.
And there's a order to it. Like there's a method to the madness, right?
Okay.
So I'll give you the 7, and then I'll explain them real quick. So
okay, no problem.
Faith, communication, conflict management, forgiveness, trust, leisure activity, sexual intimacy.
Okay.
In that order.
Okay.
Right? So faith, there's 2 components to that. Faith is, yes, the God piece of that, right?
Right.
But faith is also your common interests, the vision for your family, the mission statement of your marriage. That's you being on the same page about something.
Right.
And that's very important, because if that doesn't happen, you can forget about the rest.
Right.
If we don't see eye to eye about the mission of this marriage and what our family is designed to do and what we've been created to do as a couple, then forget about the rest. So that's where it starts. Then we need to be able to communicate. We got to be able to talk to each other. We got to know what that looks like. We got to know what the effective components of communication are. Then if we're able to do that effectively, it makes conflict management easier.
Right.
If conflict management is happening the way it should be, it's easier to forgive. As forgiveness becomes a consistent part of your life, you are now able to build trust better.
Yes.
As trust builds, obviously you want to spend time with the person. So then leisure activity becomes sweet. And And then sex is the icing on the cake. Because everything else, you've built everything else up.
Yeah. Wow. That's
and
amazing.
you put it last because that makes sense.
Yeah, because you connecting, you bringing it all together.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for your time, guys.
Yeah, you definitely.
Indeed.
I gotta say that I could talk to you guys forever. So like, unless you rush, I'm like, I'm rushing you. I'm letting you talk. Keep talking, brother. And Denise, you ain't talking. You can talk too.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate
on that subject. When are you gonna start the YouTube again?
It's coming.
Talking about it.
I know.
We're coming soon. Inside the relationship, there is one season there for folks to view. But yeah, that's coming back soon, real soon.
Okay.
But thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, we're gonna start it next week. I know it's kind of late notice, and actually, by the time they hear this, it already was started. So in the future, you do these cohorts. So if they just go to,
hold on, I'm gonna put the information.
The banner. Thank you.
Yep, it's denali.org/make-love-better.
Right. We put it up. Yeah, I made sure to type it up. Yep. So if they go to that, they can. And I actually looked at it. You have a link, and it gives you like the whole list of all the different things that you have going on, and that's coming up. Things like that. You even have another marriage season, or not a season, but you have like an episode or something on when I clicked on the link. I think you had like from another podcast. You had like a little section there.
Snippet there. Yep.
Oh,
a little snippet there. Yeah. So I was looking through all of that. I mean, I tell you, I'm not.
He really likes you guys.
That's all I'm saying.
I
don't go looking. I don't. I really don't.
Yeah. We appreciate you both. Yeah, there's the YouTube channel. That's for those that are YouTube folks. That's a good place to kind of start. There's probably, I don't know, it's probably 300 videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then social media folks, you can pretty much find us on all social media.
Yeah.
And on the website, for those who are podcast folks, we have been on a few podcasts like this, and so we tend to put those up on our site as well. So you can see that as well on our site. Yeah, that's what's up, man. We appreciate you both. Thank you for your support. Thank you for having us. It's our pleasure to be on the show, man. We don't take that lightly. Like when people, want to collab and hang out, like that's dope, man. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys too.
You want to put them off?
Just for 1 minute.
Okay. What you wanted to say?
I wanted to say thank you for joining us on the Marriage Can Heal podcast.
Okay.
My name is Pedro.
My name is Sarah.
God bless and have a good week.
Have a good week. What you look like that for? Okay.
Peace.
Bye.